where they hear it preached. I want to call your attention to a warning which you have received out of Deuteronomy. But I want to read you several scriptures up to the Deuteronomy scripture. If you look in Micah chapter 6, have to get the big book. It says, He hath shown thee. He hath shown you, O man, what is good. Now listen carefully to these selected scriptures. He hath shown thee, O man, O woman, what's good. And what does the Lord require of you? To do justly, and to love mercy, and walk humbly with thy God. Look at James chapter 2 and verse 8. If you fulfill the royal law according to the scriptures, then shall love, or thou shalt love thy neighbors thyself. You're going to do well. You do well. Look at Romans again, chapter 12. I hope you'll write these down. Romans 12:21. Be not overcome with evil, but overcome evil with good. Then back to James chapter 3 verse 8. But the tongue can no man tame. It's unruly, evil, and full of deadly poison. Now, prior to Deuteronomy chapter 10, we look at Deuteronomy 9 and verse 24. Listen very carefully. These are all warnings. You've been rebellious against the Lord from the day that I knew you. It's very unusual that we see such scriptures as this pointed out. Scriptures that are truly a warning given to us by the commandment not only of God, but from the prophets who followed the law that Jesus set for them. Now I want you to understand that in Jesus' day, the Jewish religion was strictly conformed to and adhered to the 5 books that Moses had written. The Jewish religion, again, now watch this, carried with it a very strict observation of what was going on. Let me better clarify this. There wasn't any such foolishness back in those days that you came to church whenever you felt like it, or you worshiped God once a year. Not like it is today. And there were overseers. And those overseers were called Pharisees. And the Pharisees were the strict interpreters of the law. The Pharisees were absolute strictlers for the ceremonial purity of how religion was carried out. You had to follow the law to the letter. But you also know, watch this, how fickle we are. Christ was always on the Pharisees because they said one thing and they did something else. They made absolute misery in life. How'd they do it?
Laws.
They called the shots, so to speak, but they didn't live by them. Even Jesus said, you Pharisees, you talk all this stuff, and you turn right around and steal from the widows, even take their home. But yet you want to call yourselves the interpreters of the law. And you want to, everything you Pharisees do, you cause some kind of controversy. And one such man, as you all are familiar with, and even in Sunday school class, this morning you heard all about Saul of Tarsus. He claimed the highest degree of faithfulness to the law. And you can even find that written in Acts chapter 26. The Pharisees and their rulers literally took all of the joy out of religion. I want you to think about that this morning. Are you excited when you come to church? Really turn that air conditioner on. It seems like I see that it's on there. I don't think we turned it on. I forgot.
It is on.
It's on?
Yep.
Is the temperature down?
Still on 77 there.
Try to get you girls cooled off a little bit. Anyway, I want us to take a look. And I talked about Deuteronomy chapter 10. This is a verse I hope that you will write down. The verse is at verse 12. It's an absolute, unmitigated argument. It is beyond any doubt a warning to all of us. Let me tell you the 4 warnings that are recorded here in the scripture. Take a look at it. Study it. Deuteronomy chapter, again, 10, and the verse is 12. It is worth writing. And now, Israel, what doth the Lord thy God require of thee? Now listen. But to fear the Lord thy God, to walk in his ways, to love him, and to serve the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul. Verse 13, to keep the commandments of the Lord and his statutes which I command thee this day for thy good, for your good. Now you need to take these scriptures home and look at them. There were 4 of them revealing what God requires of you in your everyday life. You got to ask yourself right here and right now, does my life, my Christian life, line up to exactly what was just read to you, or are you serving yourself on a daily basis? Here's another thought. Is it possible? Think with me, is it possible to externally conform to the laws that we practice today? Oh, you look good coming to church. You come to every church meeting. But inwardly, now here's the thought. Inwardly, do you really reject what's going on You see why so many people today do not like this message? Because when you think about it, it starts to surface a lot of thoughts that pertain to the way you do business every day for the Lord. Isaiah 29 describes it the best that I've read. With their lips, what? They honor me. But listen to the last of it. But they have removed. They've removed their hearts far from me. Let that sink in. I think one of the most frustrating times of my life is when I talk to people who are praising God and jumping up and down, and I know, I see a different side to them when they least expect it. There's a story told about a little girl, and I mean, she had become an absolute teetotal little demon. Even her brothers and sisters said there's something wrong with her. She was like the Tasmanian devil. And it finally got onto her mother's nerves, so she couldn't take it anymore. And her mother screamed at her, "You've done it now." She grabbed the switch off of the mantle, and she screamed at that little girl. She said, "You need to sit down and shut up. And I mean, you need to shut your mouth, because I'm going to whip you like you've never been whipped. You got on my nerves, so I can't take it anymore." So the little girl threw herself into the chair, legs straight out in front of her, still wanting to have the last word, both hands on top of her head, pulling on her hair. She screamed at her mother, "I might be sitting down, but inside I'm still standing up." In our church relationship and worship with the Lord today, are you like that? I mean, you got to search your soul. Are you really here because you're excited that God has brought you? One of the worst things, and several pastors think I'm crazy, but I pray, and have been for 17 years now, that if you don't belong here, that God will take you out of here. If your heart's not right, that God will take you out of here and not put you among God's good, wonderful, and beautiful people. They look at me and say, "You're crazy." Well, maybe I am. I want to tell you another story, if I can, because each of these stories continue to align themselves. You ask yourself, really and truly as a Christian, are you sitting down or are you standing up in the presence of God? A story is told about another man by the name of Harry Hopkins. Back when World War II was in its early stages, Harry Hopkins, for those of you who don't know who he was a rather frail man, sickly, but he was an advisor in the White House to Franklin Roosevelt. Now, Harry Hopkins, being on that staff, he was not the best dressed man, but he was just Harry Hopkins' friend of President Franklin Roosevelt. But the other staff members began to gossip throughout the White House. Harry Hopkins he's just not the kind of an advisor that the president ought to have, especially when we're getting ready to go to war. I mean, you know, this guy needs to get out and let some younger blood get in. Now, all this gossip was going on, finally got back to President Roosevelt, and he called an immediate staff meeting. All with the exceptions of Harry Hopkins. When they came in, he responded. He said, I hear this rumor that goes around, but I want to tell you something. That Harry Hopkins is my personal friend. Harry Hopkins wants to serve his country, and he wants to serve God. And he wants to serve me. And he said, you people, every time you walk in this office, you want me to do something for you. When's the last time you did anything for God? You see, a lawyer, brilliant lawyer, came to Christ. And he said, in his brilliance, he's addressing Jesus Christ, and he said, which of the commandments is the greatest? You remember what the Lord said? Jesus said, love me with what? The question here today is, have any of you gotten on your hands and knees and said, Lord, I love you? When is the last time that you actually said, Lord, I love you? You see, love is the heart of God's law. This business, what you want to do is called selective obedience, and it's not an option. Selective obedience. You're to love everybody, even your what?
Enemies.
Enemies. And you hear me tell you time and time again, some people are awful hard to what? Yeah. It gives you an opportunity to think about how you react as a Christian. Story is told about a man that gossiped. A good, stable, Christian man, God-fearing, supportive of his church, a deacon in the church, but he was prone on occasions to gossip or to join in the gossip, even though he knew it was wrong. When he did, and this disaster occurred from gossip in the man's life, wrecked his life, tore his family apart, caused undue damage, loss of his job because of gossip. This good Christian man, we all folks make mistakes, was so hurt. His heart ached when he saw what he had done by making a gossip commitment. Heart hurt so bad he looked for somebody and he went to a pastor. And he asked him. He said, how can I undo what I've done? The pastor said to him, I want you to get a pillowcase I want you to cut it open.